Guys, welcome back to the channel. Today is going to be a little bit of a different video than my normal stuff, but I wanted to do this video to also appeal to the architectural community and also interior designers. So I wanted to kind of give my take on how I'm going about designing my house with regard to finishes and in this particular video, cabinet placement and kitchen design, etc. And maybe open up your eyes a little bit to the world of 3D. I'm not sure what, there's a bunch of 3D software out there you see on TV shows and everything else, but I wanted to show how I'm using Blender, which is a free software, open source software, to design this interior. So right now you can see I have it in 3D view, and right now I'm working on my new kitchen that I'll be building here hopefully in the next well, we should be starting here in a couple months, next month or two. So hopefully you can subscribe to my channel now, and I'll show you how I try to turn this concept, budget willing, into a reality here. So what I'm using, and if you guys do this stuff for a living, like 3D art, or you are an interior designer, this might be worth your while to just kind of let me kind of ramble on here. And if this video series does take off, I will do a more of a how-to, how to kind of get to this point if you guys are interested. So let me get into my floor plan view here, and this is a PDF of my floor plan. So if I go into my layers and I turn off some elements, we can kind of get a good idea of what the floor plan is actually laid out as. So you can see this is the area that I'm working on in 3D right now, and here's the entire floor plan. And what I've done is I've manually, and there's a bunch of ways to do this stuff in Blender, but what I've found to be the most photorealistic is to do this stuff manually by hand. Draw all of the walls and everything as shapes, and use booleans and start cutting into walls and doing it manually, so without exact architectural tools, I guess this is the best way to put it. And let me show you some of the results that you can produce. So this is the view. If I come back to my drawing here and I turn on my furniture, and the other nice thing about Blender is you can basically put the exact components that you want to put into your design. So if I turn on my refrigerators, which are here, I'm running with the Fisher Paykel, which is what we're leaning towards now. And if I turn on the kitchen accessories, which is some plants and different furniture and stuff that I've put into the house, and I also turn on my furniture layer, this view that you see here is this rendering here. So the way Blender works is you draw it all in a 3D view, which is this, and then if you want to go ahead and put it into more photorealistic view, you put it into render view. And it'll go ahead and add the photorealistic elements to it. So it'll go ahead and get a little bit blurry, and then it'll kind of clarify. And the way I bring it in, I have some different textures. The oven, this is the Ilve range that I want to put into the house, budget willing, refrigerators, etc. So this I have found is a more realistic way to show, or to kind of visualize what you want to do. So right now I'm trying to work out the cabinet system, the door to the pantry, the backsplash area, this refrigerator wall. I've done more like, for example, I'll show you this refrigerator wall right here. Let's go into like a 3D realistic perspective here. This refrigerator wall, I'm trying to work out the cabinetry for. So if I go ahead and I turn off the Fisher Paykel fridges, which is now gives me an opening, you can see how nice this is to do in real time once you have everything drawn. And I put in the panel fridges, with the exception of these knobs being in the way, I could see, okay, well, this is what it would look like with cabinet panels on there. Or if I turn that off and I kind of go into some of the extra stuff, like this refrigerator wall. This is the True refrigeration system, which are way out of my budget, not gonna happen. But I can kind of get an idea of what it would look like. I can also open up my focal length and go to like a 35mm camera angle, and it will take away all that distortion that you see there. So I love the way, obviously, I love the way this looks, but realistically, I'm not going to be putting glass on my refrigerator doors, and I cannot afford these. These are about $24,000. That's not happening. So that's just one example of, using Blender. You can create some really nice photorealistic designs and actually use it in a practical setting to really kind of figure out what you want to do. Now, the rig I'm running, I've done some videos on it before. It is resoluting quite quickly because that's two RTX Titan graphics cards and a 3080 Ti on a water-cooled loop. So, your performance may vary, but it's definitely worth, if you're going to spend a considerable amount of money on a home, it might be worth your while learning the software and doing all this on your own. So I wanted to kind of open up that world to, any interior designer or anybody that's looking to do this stuff for a living. Think about this software. It's really good. There's also a nice 3D library where, like, for example, this range, if we go online here, and we actually look up ranges, here it is right here. So you can see the stove, or the range that I have in the rendering, is actually dimension spec'd to the 3D model, which makes everything a whole lot easier when you're trying to see, okay, well, will the white refrigerator look good with off-white cabinets, etc. I drew all the cabinets from scratch and kind of an idea of how I want them to be. But another cool thing with Blender is that you can use materials, and, like, for example, my base color of my cabinet is this hex value right here. Okay, so if I want to change my whole kitchen to a completely different color, like, let's go green, and I can see what it would look like dark green, you see. Or you can change it to, whatever you want to do. So if you're trying to kind of configure your kitchen to say, okay, well, what would it look like with dark cabinets? What would it look like with light cabinets? Once you have everything drawn and you've got everything 3D modeled, you can really get a good idea of, what your personal style is, before you invest tens of thousands of dollars into something and you may not like it. So, I happen to think that this software, to me, is the best software by far when it comes to doing this type of work. It's not the fastest software in the world, but once you've drawn your model, you can really get a good idea of what something's going to look like. Now, if we look at, say, this flooring here, this is the acacia flooring that I have in my house. But if I want to go ahead and go into a material editor, put this into 3D view, and we look at the flooring system, which is here. If I want to change this to, say, a picture of a floor I liked, which is, say, this floor, okay, I can actually use this photograph as the floor. So if I go back into my system and I change the floor, now the floor is changed to a light color. So if I go back to my 3D view, now you can see the floor is the lighter color. So now this gives me an idea of flooring choices. Okay, well, do I like this floor? Do I not like this floor? Does this floor look good with the cabinetry? I can sit here in real time now, like I just demonstrated before, and really start, messing around with colors again to see what looks good. So this is the kitchen area that I have drawn now, but if I spin us around, I have a lot of other areas that are roughly drawn in. So I can get an idea of different spaces. So let's go over here. So here's another door that I've drawn. If we look through, not the easiest to navigate in the 3D viewport, but it does the trick. So I can see now, okay, well, this is what it's going to look like coming from the dining room out to the living room. Or if I bring the camera over here, I can see what the sliders are going to look like. I can see what my closet doors are going to look like, instead of just relying on floor plan. I can also change the focal length of the camera back to like a wide angle to really get more into my field of view, which is cool. So Blender really does have a lot of, I think, very nice features when it comes to laying out our architectural interiors that you should definitely consider. So to get all this stuff where you want it to be, you're dealing with, shapes. So you will have to get some general knowledge of how to draw polygons and shapes and, learn, but it's worth doing. A lot of people are, the way I look at it is a lot of people are spending their time doing puzzles and silly stuff during, quarantine or working from home, or, some people are working from home now and they're not, I feel like, maximizing their time with learning a new skill. And this is what I did during when we had quarantine. So I taught myself how to use the software, and now I'm actually using it to design my home. So definitely worth learning. I'll give you another example of where this is really useful is when I was laying out the stair system. So right now I have a really wide, and I'm not going to build this stair system here, but I have a really wide stair system. But if I turn off my stairs, I was trying to figure out how to work out this landing area. So let's go into a better view where we can see it better. Here's our view. So if I want to go ahead and go with version 1, this is what I'm most likely going to build. This is a 5-foot wide tread, nice classic design. But I thought myself, well, what if it was really wide? Then it would come all the way out to here. That's kind of cool. I like that, but I thought, well, maybe it kind of chokes off this walkway area here, so no sense in having a 9-foot wide tread. Let's go back to 0 again. And then I tried this design, which looked cool. And the reason why we see this bench here is because it's in a furniture layer. I can hide that. So I thought that was kind of nice, because then you could enter the stair from this direction here or from the forward direction, and it kind of makes it a nice little conversational area. But then my wife thinks that, and I do too, that it might be a trip hazard going into the kitchen from the great room. So not going to happen. So, just drawing different, systems, you can see what it's going to really be like instead of just using or relying on a floor plan. So hope this video was helpful. If it was, cool, let me know in the comments. I'd love to know your feedback. If not, I won't do any more content like this, but I thought this was very useful. I wanted to do a video on this before I forgot. So I truly appreciate you guys. Make sure to like, thumbs up, all that stuff. Please leave a comment, and I'll get you in the next one. Later.